Okay.
Just where the heck?
Really, it's fine. Oh, it was covered. Some of your stuff.
Okay. We're calling the community comment section of our town council meeting to order. First, the rules are that you write in to request to speak if it's something that's not on the agenda, and you have 5 minutes to speak. So the first speaker is Joe Bleicher regarding Airbnb on Meadowbrook Road. And, we need to do a roll call vote before you can come on up to this speaker, and we'll do a roll call while you're walking up.
Mr. Barnes.
Present.
Ms. Cantor?
Here.
Ms. Casperson?
Here.
Mr. Davidoff?
Here.
Mr. Dodge?
Here.
Ms. Hall?
Here.
Ms. Kerrigan? Mr. Winograd? And Mr. Williams.
Here.
Thank you, Ms. LeBreau. Okay, go ahead. Thank you. State your name and address for the record, too.
I'm Joe Bleicher. I'm Joe Bleicher. This is Denise Gleckler and Pat Wilson, also Airbnb hosts. I live on Meadowbrook Road, as we all do. My wife and I moved here 28 years ago. We raised our 2 kids. They went to Webb Hill, Sedgwick, and Conard. I'm 66. I've been Airbnb host just since the fall, and my experiences have been wonderful. I stayed in Airbnb for the first time this year in Plymouth, Mass. And Santa Cruz, California, with my family. As a retiree, I found myself part of a trend to age in place, a term I had never heard before. My third floor suite, as I call it, is where both my children have lived. And I wouldn't have done this without their permission and support. I love it here in town, particularly on Meadowbrook Road, where I've lived this long, where everybody knows my name and my dog Biggs. Instead of leaving Connecticut for warmer and less costly climates, I want to remain here as long as possible. This is where I want to age in place. I would like very much to make this work. I work part-time at the Connecticut Science Center and volunteer in and around town. Being host has afforded me an opportunity to earn extra money and remain here in my home, and to do volunteer work that I haven't had time to do raising a family. Airbnb's mission is to create a world where people can belong and be connected when they travel. When I welcome a guest into my home, I also welcome them to my neighborhood and my town and all it offers. I felt safe as a host and would never endanger my neighbors. Last year, the state of Connecticut became the first in the region to work with Airbnb to collect taxes, and has outlined a way for guests, hosts, and towns to benefit culturally and financially in areas where Airbnb is permitted. We should be able to find a path, I think, to do the same for our town. In the last year, 800 guests stayed in West Hartford for an average of 5.3 nights per stay. 62% of West Hartford hosts are women, and 38% of hosts are over the age of 50. The typical West Hartford host earned $3,000 in income for sharing their home for 4 nights a month over the course of the year. My property taxes are almost $8,000. That's not insignificant for me and a financial burden. I hosted 8 times last year and made about $2,700. I read reviews that are posted online of my guests before they come, as they do of me as a host. I would be more than happy to share them with you. They're part of a guest book that I keep. Ta-da. Because there's only one hotel in town, Airbnb provides travelers with unique, affordable lodging options, and with the money going directly to our host town residents and to local businesses. I have a binder on my 3rd floor suite of things to do, places to go, places to eat. And I've even provided a walking map to some of my guests to rave reviews, I might add. Airbnb performs background checks to make sure that my community and I are safe. They offer insurance to help protect guests, hosts, and their neighbors in the rare event of injury or theft. They've also launched Airbnb Neighbors, a new 24/7 platform for neighbors to share concerns that they might have about a listing. As far as I know, this is above and beyond what hotels do. I believe that West Hartford, my town, should embrace the Airbnb community by following the lead of others, to pass ordinance that recognize the benefits of home sharing, and this includes the economic opportunity that it can provide for both the town and its merchants. I believe we are the town that cares, and that is as it should be. Thank you. I really look forward to working with you on this.
Keeping a timer?
Yeah, our town clerk does, yes.
Okay, so my name is Denise Gleckler, and I just want to share with you how I settled in West Hartford and improved my property, and then introduced a number of guests to the town of West Hartford. I moved here a little over 4 years ago, and I wanted to live in a place where I could walk downtown, and I found it here. As you know, it's a little more expensive to live in this town, so I had someone actually rooming with me. My house was in quite disrepair. I guess there were a bunch of raccoons living in it prior to my arrival, and the neighbors would prefer that person be in there. Anyway, I had to do a lot of renovations, and it's costly. So like I said, I had a renter for a while, and she moved out, and I didn't want to have a long-term person there, and I heard about Airbnb. But it's not a comfortable situation to have somebody come in your home and stay. But I learned that they vet the guests. So as a host, I had to be vetted. They looked at my background, and guests have background checks for sex offenders. They have it for misdemeanors, and they have it for criminal offenses. And if you have any of those, you're not allowed to be a guest on Airbnb. So I started hosting these people, and with that extra money, I was able to put on a porch, reside my house, put in windows, things that I wanted to do to improve the value of my property. And so it's been about a year since I've been doing this, and I've had professionals come in who are working during the day, and then they frequent the restaurants in the evenings. I've had residents who are looking for placement at UConn, the health center. That's been quite a bit of my guests. I actually had a couple of new grads that got jobs in the area that were interested in living in West Hartford. So until they found an apartment, okay, they stayed here. So I'm going to be really quick and let Pat speak a minute. Anyway, Airbnb has been really beneficial to me in allowing me to stay in West Hartford and to afford the taxes, as Joe said, and to make improvements on my property.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll just take 1 minute more. Thank you for letting us speak tonight. I'm at 109 Meadowbrook. I've lived here for 34 years. And for several years, I've had Airbnb guests. The reason I do it is because I enjoy welcoming travelers and offering them hospitality and helping them enjoy our town. So I see that as our primary role. We give a pleasant, private place for them to be. We show them where restaurants are, and in our case, they're all in walking distance. We tell them about transportation routes, points of interest. So the people that I have been having for a few days at a time have included people coming for short-term work assignments, people coming for job interviews, people looking for housing, people visiting family. Of the people who have come to look for housing, one couple chose Hartford, one couple found an apartment in West Hartford, and then I felt they would like to get to know each other, so I invited them all to join me in West Hartford at a restaurant for dinner and introduced them so they both knew some young newcomers And I think that's part of our role, simply to be an ambassador for the town and the area and to welcome people. So I appreciate the chance that we can do this. And I think that despite the regulations we have on our books, it's time to think about this era and move into more kindness, more friendliness, and welcoming with hospitality. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next speaker is Sarah Raskin regarding protecting immigrant and refugee rights in West Hartford. Okay, and make sure you just state your name and your address for the record, okay? And the mic is on, but make sure it's.
All right. My name is Gabriela Valdeiglesias, and I live at 11 Ware Ave in West Hartford, and I am a senior in Hall High School. We are here today to present a petition and resolution requesting the passing of a town ordinance to protect and support our immigrant and refugee neighbors. This critical request should neither require additional town police services nor increase our budget. I was born in Peru and immigrated to the U.S. in 2001. My family has accomplished many great things in the 16 years that we have lived here. My father has established his own painting company, and 3 of my siblings are currently in college. These are things that we would not have been able to accomplish if we had stayed in Peru. We seek for greater things in ourselves. We only want to succeed in this country. But what is holding us back from reaching our potential of becoming great is President Trump's hateful deportation agenda. With the increase of ICE agents, my family is terrified of what the future holds in store for us. We have worked too hard and too long to throw away all of our accomplishments and return to a country where we would have to start all over. We are here to stand for and protect our core values as a nation, our values of democracy and the welcoming of others. The current presidential administration is threatening those values. Recently, over 1,000 people have signed a petition and rallied in West Hartford, raising their voices to bring our community together to fight against the new administration's divisive policies and build a more inclusive, compassionate, and welcoming America. We applaud and support Mayor Cantor's message at the rally and her proclamation that underscores West Hartford as a welcoming, caring, and inclusive town. We also feel that the statement that West Hartford will abide by the provisions of the Trust Act and support its reasonable and holistic approach to dealing with our immigrant population is an excellent step in the right direction. We also applaud that the West Hartford Police Department values and protects constitutional and civil rights of all of our residents and visitors. However, given the aggressive anti-immigrant and refugee policies promoted by the presidential administration, we feel that this proclamation to follow a state law and continue in practices of town officials currently in power is not enough. We need to do more, and acting in a concrete manner at the local level is the best way to reassure and protect our immigrant and refugee neighbors. We ask that you create a town ordinance to protect and support our immigrant and refugee neighbors. Thank you for your time and service to West Hartford. And I would like to give my extra time to Anna.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
Hi, my name is Anna Schusterman. I live at 25 Owings Road. Thanks for taking our comments. I'm here representing a large group of people, many of whom are here, who are asking our town's elected officials to develop clear policies regarding undocumented individuals in West Hartford. This group includes many of the participants in the Rally for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, one of the largest in the history of West Hartford, and over 1,000 residents who signed a petition in support of this request. I want to take a moment to say why I am coming forward on this issue and to ask you to think about legal status in immigration. I came to this country as a refugee from the Soviet Union as a child in 1979, along with 50,000 other Jews who were granted asylum. We benefited from the activism of people who escaped without permission and exposed to the international community the level of oppression that constituted everyday life in the virulently anti-Semitic Soviet Union. Those leaders caught the attention of the American Jewish community, who fought tirelessly until people like me could be granted visas to come to the US and make a better life. Then the opportunity closed, and my grandparents, who had hesitated in their decision, ended up waiting another 12 years for permission to enter this country. My point is that the mechanics of immigration are capricious and unfair. People come to this country escaping challenging, sometimes horrible or violent circumstances, and seeking the freedom and opportunity that the United States has long represented. Like any other immigrants, people without certain paperwork contribute to our country and our town economically, culturally, and in countless other ways. It's not our job as a town to worry about paperwork or specific paths that people took to get here. We should not care if people came to West Hartford from Minnesota or Tennessee or by plane or by train. Similarly, it is not the mandate of municipalities to spend our resources concerning ourselves with the immigration status of people in our town. But it is our job to make sure that people who are here feel safe, welcome, cared for, that they are healthy and educated, and that they are fully participating in the vibrant life of our town, not afraid, not hiding, safe. Studies suggest that crime is lower in places that adopt welcoming sanctuary policies and that our economy benefits from the undocumented people when they are fully allowed to contribute. We have drafted a resolution that we hope the council adopts as a town ordinance. This resolution contains policies consistent with a safe and welcoming town for everybody, including undocumented individuals.
Thank you, Anna. The next speaker is Manisha Desai, regarding support of refugees and immigrants in West Hartford.
Hi, my name is Monica Doshi, 50 South Highland Street, West Hartford.
I'm sorry if that was incorrect spelling or pronunciation. I apologize.
I am taking Manisha's spot, and my name is Monica. Okay. Yeah, no problem.
Bad typo.
Same initials. So I'm just going to read the resolution out loud. This resolution affirms that the town of West Hartford, its officials, and government will continue to uphold human rights and the core values of compassion, inclusivity, and equity. We stand ready to protect the rights of all of our residents, those who wish to call our town their home. West Hartford will not provide assistance or resources to implement programs or initiatives that discriminate on the basis of immigration status, national origin, or citizenship status, race, ethnicity, religion, gender, sexual orientation, or disability. Whereas the town of West Hartford, Connecticut is proud to be a community that values diversity and has long been attractive to people from a wide variety of immigrant groups. And whereas the town of West Hartford remains committed to maintaining its core values and dedication to refugee and immigrant communities. And whereas enforcement of federal immigration laws is the responsibility of federal government, not local law enforcement agencies, and federal law does not require local law enforcement or other local service providers to inquire into an individual's immigration status. And whereas the threat of deportation or prosecution for no reason other than immigration status may discourage residents without legal immigration status or who have family members or friends without legal immigration status from reporting crimes or injuries, cooperating in investigations, seeking opportunities for their children living in this community, or summoning help when needed. And whereas the town of West Hartford is committed to fulfilling the promise of the Bill of Rights for all people, regardless of race, ethnicity, immigration status, religion, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, disability, or other protected status. Now, therefore, be it resolved in 2017 that the town of West Hartford condemns violence and hate speech, affirms the religious pluralism of the United States, and expresses solidarity with Muslims and all those targeted for their national origin, race, ethnicity, religion, immigration status, gender, sexual orientation, disability, or other protected status. Require through a town ordinance that local officials, institutions, employees, and law enforcement refrain from monitoring individuals because of their political expression or from surveilling political expression or political organizations absent reasonable suspicion that a crime has been committed or is likely to be committed. Refrain from stopping individuals for investigation or investigating individuals because of their perceived race, ethnicity, immigration status, religion, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, or disability unless there is reasonable suspicion relevant to the locality and time frame that links a person with a particular characteristic described in this subsection to a crime that has been committed or is likely to be committed in the town of West Hartford. Refrain from surveillance of any house of worship, absent reasonable suspicion that a crime has been committed or is likely to be committed. Refrain from monitoring or registering individuals or assisting in such activities or providing any resources or infrastructures to support such activities when such monitoring or registration is based on those individuals' religious views or identities. Refrain from enforcing or assisting in the enforcement of federal initiatives that target particular residents on the basis of race, ethnicity, immigration status, religion, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, or disability. Refrain from assisting in the enforcement of federal immigration issues or immigration and customs enforcement detainers. And affirm the value of providing high-quality diversity training and education developed and implemented in partnership with representatives of diverse communities for public school teachers, librarians, and administrators, and for law enforcement officers. Support regular programs within the town of West Hartford to strengthen relationships between the town and its immigrant, refugee, and Muslim communities, and establish an information and access portal to answer questions, sort of an FAQ, and direct services to immigrant, refugee, and Muslim communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. I don't think we got your, we have your address. The town clerk does need it. So do you want to just state your name and address for the record? Thank you.
Monica Doshi, 50 South Highland Street.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all. The community comment section of the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, and we're moving right into a public hearing, so. Thank you. Thank you, and make sure the town clerk gets, yeah. He went to the law school and. Okay. All right. Where's my public hearing? Oh, here it is. All right. So. Yeah. We have to get going on a public hearing, so I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, we're calling to order the public hearing for ordinance of the Town of West Hartford redefining kennel in the West Hartford Code of Ordinances 177-2. Ms. LeBreau, roll call.
Mr. Barnes.
Present.
Ms. Cantor.
Here.
Ms. Kasperson.
Here.
Mr. Davidoff.
Here.
Mr. Dodge.
Here.
Ms. Hall.
Here.
Ms. Kerrigan. Mr. Winograd. Here. And Mr. Williams.
Here.
Thank you. Yes, okay. Ms. Bonham, would you like to present for the council?
Sure. For the record, Kimberly Bonham, Deputy. Oh, sure. Yeah.
People of dog. Yeah, it's good.
Okay. For the record, Kimberly Bonham, Deputy Corporation Counsel. What you have before you is an ordinance that is probably one of the shortest ordinances you guys would see. But essentially, what it does is it says that if you would have 4 or more dogs in your residence, then you would need to get a special use permit. Currently, you need 3 or more. You need to have a minimum of 3 dogs to have a special use permit. You could have 2 as of right. So this would basically lift it 1, 2 to 3 dogs as of right, and then beyond that would be a special use permit. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Bonham. Questions, Mr. Barnes?
Thank you. Can you just explain the process for obtaining a special use permit? Kind of what's involved in that, and is there a cost associated with that?
Sure. The special use permit, essentially, the first step is to meet with the town planner. He talks about the application and gives guidance as far as the application process. Once the application is made, it gets set on the Planning and Zoning Commission's agenda, generally the next hearing after the submission is made, and legal note, the public hearing gets set. That needs to be within 65 days after you've submitted your application. And the legal notice is published by the planning office in the newspaper twice. A sign needs to be posted. And then the hearing is held by the Planning and Zoning Commission. There are fees of a total of $410. There's a state of Connecticut surcharge included in that, a public hearing fee, but the total is $410.
And is that a one-time fee or is that an annual fee?
It's a one-time fee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Any other questions? Yes.
And what ultimately what they're ultimately receive is a special use permit that is that individual or for the property? And
It's
how
for
does
the
that work?
property.
So then forever after, if they move, they're still,
It runs with the land.
that runs the land.
Thank you, Mr. Winograd. Mrs. Hall? Oh, do you have another question?
And this may actually be a question for our town clerk. I wonder, Ms. LeBreau, if you could just detail what the fees are for dog licenses. I know we had one correspondence that indicated they thought there were a lot of people that already had 3 dogs and they just weren't licensing the 3rd dog. So I don't know whether you could put any kind of a revenue prediction on this.
I actually checked the current 2016 licensing that ends June 30th. We have about 2,960 dogs licensed, which we believe there certainly are more dogs in West Hartford that are not licensed. There are currently 20 families that have more than 2 dogs, but they are licensed because that's the only way we know that they exist. So there's certainly a large number of people that do not license their dogs in West Hartford, and that's pretty much a problem, I think, statewide. The numbers have been going down every year, so.
So are you saying currently people are going through that special process, or they're just registering all
They're
3
just
dogs?
registering their dogs. There's a number of families that have 3, there's a couple that have 4, and they register them and license them. And there's no permit involved, because that's a special process that goes through zoning, not through the town clerk's office.
And just a reminder how we share that revenue with the state?
Oh, for a dog license is
Another pet peeve,
$8,
so to speak.
$8 for a spayed animal, and it's $19 for a non-spayed animal. And the town gets, my office gets $1.
Thank you, Mrs. Hall. Mr. Dodge?
Thank you. This may be a question for Mr. Van Winkle. Do we know, how do we stack up to other neighboring communities? In other words, do other communities similarly restrict the number of dogs in the way that we do?
It varies. This ordinance has been on our books for decades. I've been here 30 years. It's certainly been on that 30 years. I'm guessing it goes back a long ways. Some communities, more rural, have no restrictions at all. We live in a more urban environment, if you will. Your neighbors are close to each other, and that is perhaps why it was originally adopted. And I just want to comment on, we get $1 for collecting those dog licenses. It costs us more than $1 to collect those dogs licenses. The state refuses to change the fee for dogs or to allow us to take a larger collection. So every time we issue a dog license, the taxpayers of West Hartford subsidize that license. It's always been a pet peeve with me.
It's adding on to the pet peeves. Thank you. Okay. Are you done, Mr. Dodge? Yes, okay, Ms. Kerrigan?
Sorry. So Ron, in all those years that you've been here, has anyone ever come before the council asking for a change like this?
I don't remember anyone asking for a change to the ordinance. You know, although it's not an inexpensive permit, generally the zoning commission does approve for someone. If you have 10 dogs, you're going to get turned down, but they will approve a kennel license, is what we call it, for you. But I don't remember anyone ever coming before the council before and asking for a change to this.
Okay. But there's a chance that someone could come before asking for a special permit and be denied that, and they would lose their $410?
Well, they would lose their $410. Your zoning commission, the TPZ, is charged with making a determination that the use of the property is appropriate. We've had property owners with dozens and dozens of dogs, and they, were turned down for permits on that. The TPZ, like you, tries to sit in judgment and decide whether 2 dogs, 3 dogs, whatever the number is acceptable given the property, the size of the yard, I guess, the closeness of the neighbors, maybe the size of the dog, I don't know. But they do look at all those things.
Asked planning if they could pull the number that they have issued over the last 18 and a half years is what they went back, and there were 14 applications. 9 of those were approved, 1 was withdrawn, and of the 4 that were denied, a couple of them were because the people just didn't show up after they had made the application. So the vast majority of them were approved. The number of dogs varied, it looks like, from 3 to 22 back in 2004, with the condition that the numbers be reduced over a time period. So most people, it would appear, when they apply, it gets approved.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Thank you, Ms. Kerrigan. You all set? Okay. Mr. Davidoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question to make certain we're all on the same page here. If we don't adopt this change this evening and a special use permit is required, the conditions for approval by the TPZ for a special use permit would be outlined in section 17742, which deal with being in harmony with the neighborhood and whether or not it fits into the character. And there's some that deals with loading docks that really doesn't really have much to apply to that. But it's basically a character fitting in type neighborhood thing. Correct, Ms. Barlow?
That's correct. They look at the size of the lot in relation to the application. They look at the nature and intensity of the use.
Correct, okay. And the other, I would probably just want to enter some testimony into the record, having served on the TPZ prior to my service on the council. And 2 kennel applications come to mind quite quickly. Both of these applicants were made to apply for a special use permit because neighbors complained about the number of dogs that were present. The first one is the 22 Shih Tzus on Walbridge Road, and I think I probably was the chairperson of the TPZ at that time, and it was kind of amazing listening to the testimony of how somebody could possibly care for 22 Shih Tzus. And the reason that came to the town's attention had to do with some type of neighbor dispute, not because the neighbors that were nearby had heard these dogs outside barking or anything of that, and the house was very clean and they had a whole system. And at the end of the day, what we decided was that they needed to get down to three dogs in like a year and a half, and then they came back to us with a reconsideration, and we denied them, and that resident has since moved out of West Hartford. But that was like an extreme case of amount of dogs in a particular residence, and all the dogs were well cared for. But I remember my other commissioners here, and I think it's important to get into the record, were kind of shocked by the number of dogs that somebody would have in their house, and how could you physically walk them, care for them, get them point A to point B. The other case that came up was on Shepherd Road in Astronaut Village. Somebody was breeding dogs, and they had 6 to 8 dogs. And what caught the neighbors' attention was there was constantly cars pulling into this residence, whether they were coming to look at the dogs or they were going to purchase the dogs. And this was obviously some type of breeding operation, a small business here. And we ruled that, no, you couldn't get this kennel operation here. This is really an appropriate use of your personal property. Those are the two that I sat on that remain in my mind. And I think we did a really good job with respect of how a special use permit. But thinking back now, bringing out the fact that it's $410 for a special use permit in today's environment, I think is kind of a high cost to ask somebody to, if we're just lifting the number of dogs that one's able to care for from 2 to 3 before you have to apply for that permit to get that 4th dog. And I think that's reasonable, in my opinion. There was some commentary about, I think, if it was a multi-dwelling unit, if it was a landlord situation. I'm certain under Connecticut tenant-landlord statutes, a landlord would have the ability to regulate the number of pets in a dwelling. Is that correct, Ms. Bono?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I think there is a safeguard out there with respect to rental properties. And overall, I just think that it will sort of self-police itself. So I would hope and I would encourage people in West Hartford as a dog owner to license your dog. It's not a major fee. Be in compliance. It does help if your dog gets attacked by another dog out there. You know, I think it's the right thing to do. And I don't think asking you to come once every June to get a dog license is a heavy ask. So if you could do that, it would make it a lot easier for everybody. And I think that's sort of meeting us halfway in terms of, you know, the council's willingness to change some action here, possibly to get possibly more compliance by our residents on the number of dogs they have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. Anybody else? Okay, actually, let's go look and see about public sign-up. Okay, so we have a sign-up sheet. You are allowed to speak for 3 minutes unless you are speaking on behalf of an organization. The first person that I have, make sure you state your name and address at this podium. The first person I have signed up is Tom Guzzo.
Tom Guzzo, 28 Price Boulevard, Connecticut. This is my sidekick, my fiance, here tonight with me. As you know, first of all, I want to say some thank yous to everybody who I called here last week, people here that are not present, Joe O'Brien in particular, who helped me out. As you know, I came to you on November 9th, and I did my homework. Unfortunately, I didn't make a lot of copies. Shame on me. Our ordinance is really somewhat outdated. As you look at the other towns, I mean, the other towns have a lot more dogs than we do. And I went around and I took the full surveys. And then I also went back the other day, matter of fact, to make sure that my numbers were still correct and they were still on the money. What I'm encouraging you is raising it up to 1 more dog. You're going to get people that are going to come forward at least, because there's plenty of people out here that are not even coming forward stating they got that 3rd dog. You're going to get the revenue. And the other thing, too, is that something that the deputy mayor talked about. That's a lot of money, $440 to get a kennel license. I don't know about you, that a lot of people are struggling to make ends meet now, just to put food on their table. And I think that raising that 1 dog will unite the community. What I mean by unite the community is it's going to bring neighbors together. You'll talk about that 3rd dog, be friendly. It'll unite. And not only that, it'll unite publicly, even with the police. They come by, they chat, they pet the dog. It's a win-win situation for everybody. And as far as also one more thing that the deputy mayor talked upon was the multifamily issue. There's already controls in there. I think Ben and his committee did an extremely good job I also recognize, TPZ did some due diligence, and I recognize they did some hard work on this too. I'm just encouraging, raising it up one is to our benefit. West Hartford's a great town. I've been here for 56 years, born and raised, and I want to continue to live in this town. One more dog will unite this community, believe me, and will stay within other towns. And on a side note, there's some of those towns there that are even considering about raising their limits again, believe it or not. Because as I went through my journey, Joe O'Brien says to me, check to see whether or not they're going to double check it. And I also want to thank our corporate counsel too, because I know they spent some time talking to my fiance too. And more importantly, I can repeat, Joe O'Brien was the one, do your homework before you speak. Don't go up there and speak off the cuff. Thank you, and I hope you approve this ordinance tonight.
Thank you, Tom. Is there, I think the other signups were related to the previous public comment. Gabriella, Anna, Peter, Maggie, or Linda? Okay, so those can, I think. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak to this public hearing? No, okay. We are done with the public comment. I'm reading into the record. Letter dated February 15, 2017 from TPZ, motion to approve failed. Letter dated February 8, 2017, finding no apparent conflict. Was anybody at the TPZ meeting that could talk to us about their decision to deny?
I wasn't at the TP&Z meeting, but I did speak to Todd Dumais afterwards, and I also spoke with him today about it, just to understand their reasoning a little bit. It was my understanding that they felt that there were already controls in place through the special use permit process. They felt there was already a process that worked, and there was some concern for them about the idea of multiple dogs per dwelling unit, particularly in small lots, single family and the multifamily, as we had touched on earlier. That was really, those were their main points, from what I understand in speaking to Todd.
Okay, thank you. And again, the special use permit goes with the property, so even if there is a different, something happens to a property next door, say there's a single-family home and then a condo unit goes up next door to that single-family home, if that house has a kennel license, special use permit, that will stay no matter what happens to the property next door, a school or whatever.
Yep.
I mean, not that we're building schools, we're not, but anyway. All right, any other questions for? All right, then we will close the public hearing. I'd like to call the February 28th Town Council meeting to order. I am going to start with sharing a member of this body years ago, a member of this body who passed away, and I just wanted to, he was quite a remarkable man. Robert Gross, a war hero, patriot, business pioneer, political leader, and active contributor to the development of West Hartford, died on Friday, Friday, February 17th. He was 96 years old. He was born in Hartford, went to Weaver High, attended Boston University, and entered the U.S. Armed Forces in 1942. He flew 33 missions over Europe as a flight navigator during World War II and was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Air Medal with 5 clusters, and Purple Heart. He had narrowly escaped death twice and survived. He survived a runway crash. Also on D-Day, when navigators were ordered not to fly with their planes, his plane and crew never made it back. After the war, and even recently, he made the point of contacting and visiting the relatives of all of his fellow crew members from that plane, as the last American to see these young soldiers alive. Most recently, he was knighted by the French government as a chevalier for his distinguished service in World War II. Returning to Hartford after the war, he was a pioneer and often was before this council in recycling and leading the region's recycling region. He was president and founder of Gross Paper Corporation in Hartford and vice president of Eastern Paper Mills Association. Bob was intensely committed to the town of West Hartford. He served as deputy mayor and a member of the town council for the town of West Hartford. He was as an elected official, he was a strong advocate for strict construction and traffic zoning to preserve the natural beauty of the town. He also served as president and a member of the Board of Trustees of the Congregation Beth Israel in West Hartford and as chairman of the Cemetery Committee. He also was president of King Philip Elementary School and junior high school's PTAs. He was a devoted family man and was married for 73 years. His wife, Cynthia, had a long history of caring for elderly and infirm relatives in the couple's own home. So we remember him. He appeared before this committee, this body, a number of times, and was very clear about his passions and his beliefs, and he was really a patriot and an incredible contributor to West Hartford. So I just want to observe a moment of silence in memory. Thank you so much. I also want to just recognize recent bomb threats that have been that this our own community has experienced and has been experienced by throughout the nation. Actually, 69 bomb threats since January to Jewish community centers and schools. This is a very scary event. I actually attend the Jewish Community Center regularly and was there at the end of one of the recent bomb scare. These actions and any actions of racism and any kind of attack is reprehensible. We of course condemn all actions of anti-Semitism and any form of racism, and just know that our community, our police officers are vigilant in trying to find out where these calls came from. They are working in a coordinated effort with other law enforcement around the country to try to solve what's going on. All right, now back to our meeting. We roll call, Ms. Lebrow.
Mr. Barnes.
Present.
Ms. Cantor. Ms. Casperson.
Here.
Mr. Davidoff.
Here.
Mr. Dodge.
Here.
Ms. Hall.
Here.
Ms. Kerrigan. Mr. Winograd. And Mr. Williams.
Here.
Thank you, Ms. Lebrow. Mr. Davidoff, number 4.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the approval of the minutes of the Town Council meeting of 2/14/2017, as well as the minutes of the public hearing resolution approving the sale of land at the intersection of South Street and Southwood Drive on 2/14/2017.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Number 5 is the public forum, and nobody has signed up, but if you would like to speak to something on the agenda, you can come forward. State your name. No? Okay. Number 6, Mr. Davidoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that we place items 14 through 19 on the consent calendar.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Now, number 7, Mr. Davidoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move adoption of an ordinance of the Town of West Hartford redefining kennel in the West Hartford Code of Ordinances 177-2.
Motion's made and seconded. This was the subject of a public hearing, so we will need a roll call vote, but I thought Mr. Winograd should cover this went through his committee, Community Planning Committee, and I'd like him to talk about what this public hearing was about in this ordinance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. They start off, give a little history of how we got here. And as noted in the public hearing earlier, Mr. Guzzo did come forward with his suggestion as to an old ordinance that could use some refreshing. And as he said, he brought us great material as to the comparables of other towns, and he made a strong presentation. It was interesting to me because it was an issue that I had thought of earlier. I've met people, in fact, with more than 2 dogs. It's pretty common in town. In fact, I remember door knocking when we ran for election and had one person who, the three dogs came to the door and greeted me, and I handed my palm card and asked for her vote, and she responded that she hoped I wouldn't turn her in. And I said, are you voting for me? But it was, it struck me then as being, a fairly arbitrary line. And I'm thrilled to have someone actually come forward and tell us, remind us of this, because it was an issue that I, even at the time, thought we should move on. I appreciate very strongly the work of our the TPZ, and they obviously take their job seriously and are great stewards of our ordinances. And I know that they took this very seriously to see whether or not they could justify a change. But ultimately, we're talking about a difference between 2 and 3 dogs, and I don't think there's going to be any evidence one way or the other as to a major impact. I agree there should be a limit. I just personally feel that that the evidence for the very restrictive 2-dog limit just isn't there. And to the extent that we can make this town more affordable, more accepting, more welcoming to more people, and of 2 and 4 legs, the better off we are. And I do think that there's a serious issue here in terms of how restrictive our ordinances should be, and I think that we need to. Personally, I want to be careful of looking at ordinances and wondering whether we're being overly restrictive. Every case needs to be taken on its own merits, but I do think there has to be a strong justification. And as noted, Mr. Davidoff and others, the $400 is not an insignificant amount of money to ask someone for just a 3rd dog. So I think the process has been refreshingly quick, but serious, and certainly I thank the members of our committee, Mr. Barnes, Mr. Dodge, as well as others who participated, to take this seriously the way it should be. But I think the view of the committee was that this is a change that we can make without doing any damage to the nature of our town. So I do urge adoption.
Thank you, Mr. Renegard. Mr. Dodge?
I just want to say thank you to you, Mr. Guzman, for the work that you put into this and for bringing this to our attention. I think, like most people, I didn't realize that it was limited to 2, and that my parents might be violating the law when they take care of my Australian Shepherd once you add their 2. And I did have an opportunity to go to the pop-up dog park that we had this weekend. And I think it's clear that this is a town that loves its dogs, and so I think this is a good measure. And I'm not quite as optimistic as you that this might lead to world peace, but I do think that it's a step in the right direction for the town. So thank you.
Okay. Anything else from the council, Mr. Barnes?
Yeah, thank you. I concur with my colleagues' comments. I just wanted to put in the record, we talked about the limits in other towns for dogs, and Mr. Guzzo provided a list. For most towns, there's no limit. Avon has no limit. Simsbury's 6, Farmington 6, Hartford no limit, East Hartford 5. The closest to us would be Southington with 4, New Britain at 10, Newington at 10, and so a change from 2 to 3 is still baby steps, so to speak. And so I do support it, and I will be adopting the one more dog chant of Mr. Guzzo.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Anybody else? Ms. Casperson?
Thank you, and I also concur with my council mates in thinking and hearing the public. Thank you, Mr. Guzzo, as well, and others who wrote in to say, you know, we really want to have these members of our family count in West Hartford and really be able to feel like we're within the law. And I think this is a great step that we're taking to help them feel better about that, and also just to, we'd like them all to be legal, and to make sure that they do get registered with ESSI and get their shots and are healthy members of the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Casperson. Ms. Kerrigan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As my colleagues that have spoken, I couldn't agree more. I loved your story, Mr. Guzzo, because when Jody and I first met, she had 2 dogs, I had a dog. We were not in West Hartford, so we were not illegal. So when you came forward, it's like, oh my goodness, if we had met in West Hartford, it would have been a very different story. So thank you for bringing it forward, and I passed it, sure.
Thank you, Ms. Kerrigan. Okay, I think we're ready for a roll call. Mr. Brown?
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Cantor?
Yes.
Ms. Casperson?
Yes.
Mr. Davidoff?
Yes.
Mr. Dodge?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Ms. Kerrigan? Yes. Mr. Winograd?
Yes.
And Mr. Williams?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. Now, I'd like to... All right, yeah. Okay. I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules to introduce an resolution regarding the Metropolitan District Commission's ad valorem tax warrant.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Seeing that, well, this was a joint effort, but would you like to summarize, and then I can add, Mr. Van
Sure.
Winkle?
Well, we've been talking about some impact that the MDC has had to us in recent months, concern that the Metropolitan District Commission had over the possibility that one municipality and their 8 municipalities that make up the MDC might not be able to pay their bills, and then how would they pay their expenses? And so in that process, we attended many hearings and had many discussions with them. And they ended up levying an additional tax. The payment to the MDC this year goes up $600,000, which is still a lot of money. $600,000 of new tax dollars that we have to generate to pay for the continuing costs, the operation of the MDC. But on top of that, this year they put together a tax warrant that levied an additional $1.77 million on the town of West Hartford and other amounts on other towns around us to ensure that if one member community was unable to pay their bills, that they would have sufficient funds. Again, not a small amount of money for us to come up with in a year in which we're finding some significant challenges with our budget. So a couple of things have happened since then. We've met with the MDC a number of times to talk about the tax levy they put on the towns. This tax they levy on is called an ad valorem tax. It's based on the size of the town's levy. So if we levy a certain amount for our taxes, their levy on us is based on that. It is a really unusual way for a water utility to raise money. A handful of utilities in America actually use an ad valorem tax. Most always, water utilities, you pay for the water that comes out of the shower head, and you pay for the water that goes down the drain and has to go into the sewer system. And so there is 2 user fees on someone who uses water. First, the water you buy that's clean, and then the water that's dirty that has to be treated. That's the most common way. to do it. And we pressed MDC on that question. If we were to shift to a user fee, and user fees are functional because you get to choose. You could take a shorter shower. You could not water your lawn, not wash your car as long. There's a lot of things you could do to conserve water, which is a good thing regardless, but conserve water and reduce your bill. It's really the appropriate way to raise that ad valorem tax. If they were to shift to a user fee, the issue of one town not paying their bill would go away. I might not pay my bill, but it's not having an impact on everyone else in the community. And so what we are recommending to them in this resolution is that they consider a move toward the adoption of a user fee versus an ad valorem tax on the town. And for the town of West Hartford in this budget year, that would save us $10 million, a big number. And this year I would love to be able to say I could save $10 million with all that's going on. The other piece of the budget, the resolution addresses the question of the money set aside in the event that one community was unable to pay their bills. The governor's budget, at the time it was speculation, would remain speculation that someone might have that trouble. The community indicated, Hartford, that they were concerned about their ability to pay their bills. And since that time, the governor has introduced a budget to the legislature. That budget clearly preserves the finances of the city of Hartford. So the issue of whether Hartford can pay their bills seems to be moot now, that there is no, it appears clear that the state of Connecticut is going to do something to ensure that the city of Hartford does not fail in its payments. And so this resolution also calls upon the MDC to remove the tax warrant they have placed on the town of West Hartford, so we don't have to set aside that $1.77 million for a payment which is unlikely to occur.
Thank you, Mr. Van Winkle. That was a very good summary of a lot of activity in the last several months. But one of the things that, as you had mentioned, that this goes right into the tax warrant that then goes out to our residents. And for a long time, and actually, Ms. Carpenter, Town Councilor Ms. Barbara Carpenter, was always a champion of a user fee and not the ad valorem system. And partly, we subsidize water use in other communities that don't have the same collection rate and grand list that we have because it's on tax receipts. But we have, and I daily receive notes or emails from senior citizens that are finding it so difficult to make ends meet and live in their home. And this is really hurting this ad valorem system, this ad valorem tax. A couple of things that it's doing to West Hartford. First, it makes mill rates uncompetitive in the greater Hartford for the member towns that participate, because we're adding this to a property tax that we're being compared to other communities with property tax that don't have a water use charge in their property tax bill. It's also hurting senior citizens who are on fixed income and maybe bought their house 50 years ago for a fraction of the value. Again, are on fixed income. Their property has increased quite a bit in value, and they have to pay increased property taxes every year and may use so little water and benefit from the water use, but then not on the sewer charge and get a very large assessment from the town based on the size of a three-bedroom home maybe that they bought 50 years ago. So there's an inequity in this, and now it is coming at a time when we really are balancing a lot of challenges. I mean, the governor's budget allocated a $14.5 million additional cost to West Hartford that we would have to pass on to our taxpayers if that budget is adopted. And we are challenged with our own budget, which has rate increases for MDC already in there, in addition to pension contributions and the many other things that healthcare costs and an increase in all our contracts, whether it be the MS4 is one thing that the state is assessing on us on a clean water. Many other demands that we don't have very much control over. We try to control it the best we can, but we're committed to. So the add-on and the addition of all of these things makes it extremely burdensome to West Hartford, and we really feel like this is the year that we need to change that dynamic. So anyway, this is it's been a work in progress for a long time. The time was never quite right, but we do feel it's right, not just for West Hartford, but for all of the member towns that have property taxes that are burdened by this ad valorem system. West Hartford may be a little bit more, but there are other communities that also have. And I will add one more thing. West Hartford is a fairly developed community, and our ground list growth is fairly modest. There are some communities that are a lot less developed that will have potential for more ground list growth. Hartford being one of them, where there could potential. We already saw actually quite a bit of commercial growth, and that this probably will shift back again in that other communities will take over a bigger share of the ad valorem system. So, we carried it for a long time. We feel like this is a very outdated method, and now it's time to be aware. Then every individual can be aware of their water use and control that use. There's very few things in the property tax system that we assess that people can control. You can't control. You have very little control, and people are hungry for more control over what they pay. And you can be conscious of your conservation by appliances that are energy and water saving, and you can control your costs a bit. Mr. Dodge.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Van Winkle, you had mentioned that almost no other water utility in the country uses this system. Are you aware of, are there any other water utilities in Connecticut that even use this, an ad valorem system?
I'm not aware of that. The mayor and I were speaking to a former mayor of another large community that had the same issue, and someone sued them for the ad valorem tax, and they withdrew the ad valorem tax and went to a user fee. So again, it's the common thing. I don't know offhand if there is another. Most of our water utilities, and many of our water utilities are in private hands with private utilities, so they don't have the ability to tax. MDC is in law, a municipality. They have the ability to levy a tax, and so they can. Mm-hmm. So it would have to be an entity like the Metropolitan District Commission, which is a creature of the state legislature, created by the state legislature.
And practically speaking, how would this work? I mean, how difficult would it be for the MDC to switch from from the ad valorem to a user fee? How would they assess that?
Yeah, the MDC wrung their hands quite a bit when we had this conversation, thinking they had to send out two bills. It seems to me that if you use a gallon of water, there's a cost for a gallon of water, and there should be a additional cost just added to that gallon of water. That would be one bill, and the base rate would just change for both water in and water out. It would seem, if I were the administrator, that's how I would do it, and it would seem very easy to do.
And I think it's telling that no other water utility in Connecticut, to our knowledge, or very few in the country, use this system. And I think if you were designing this today from scratch, there's no way that we would ever set up the financing mechanism for the MDC this way. It is completely outdated and makes no sense at all. Going to a user fee would be a much fairer and more equitable way of paying for our water. And it's a simple concept, which is that now, under this, West Hartford residents would only pay for what they use. We would not subsidize other towns because of the success of our grand list. And I think another major benefit, given the problems that we saw recently with the MDC, is the stability that it would give to that entity. It's a big problem when, the finances of just one of your member towns can threaten the entire thing. And I think that this by going away from that system, we will not need to worry about whether Hartford is going bankrupt, whether another municipality is going to have problems paying its bills. And so, it makes so much sense that it's surprising to me that anybody could possibly be, any of the other member towns could possibly be opposed to it, any other resident could be opposed to it, because it really makes sense, and it is the way that I think we should go, and that the MDC needs to go. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Is there anybody else? Mrs. Hall?
Thank you. I definitely would support this resolution, obviously, with since we've all sponsored it. But I think also over my 7 years of sitting here, every single time any issue involving the MDC has come up, I've tried to point out the unfairness of this ad valorem tax. We have been subsidizing the other towns forever, just because our collection rate, our tax collection rate, is so high, and we have been good stewards of our property and trying to grow our grand list every year, and it's been unfortunate. The other thing that happens by being subject to the MDC's whims is when it comes to budgeting. All of a sudden, a number gets thrown at us out of the air. It's hard enough to just control the costs that we know about, and then when you're trying to juggle what the state throws at you and MDC, it really makes our jobs very difficult. So it would be a change for our residents, and I also think that's a good thing, because part of the issue with MDC is having this buried in the town's budget. It's not, it doesn't have the same transparency. And now when you have the entire town looking at a bill that spells out the costs, then you get a much more involved citizenry.
Absolutely.
And I think that would be a good thing. I think we've already witnessed that, and we'll continue to witness it as their bills go up with the Clean Water Project costs as well. The other thing I just want to point out is this very much is in the hands of the legislature. It is going to require charter change, probably, and that means we need our legislators to hear from residents that they think this is the better way to go too. So I just would urge our residents who want to be involved, who want to have a say in what happens at MDC, to speak up. We've already witnessed tonight how a concerned resident can come forward and make change. So I would encourage our residents to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hall. Mr. Williams?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for putting this resolution forward. I just want to point out that this resolution, we're not asking the MDC to rescind the additional tax. We're calling upon it to do so. We're directing it to do so. The justification for the contingency fund no longer exists. It is incumbent upon them to rescind the additional tax. They have no justification to move forward with it. In the last year and a half or so, there's been really a parade of disappointments in terms of the MDC's management, the way they've dealt with a variety of issues, and I think that rescinding this additional tax would be a step in the right direction and a sign that it's willing to work with member towns as opposed to dictate to it. And I would just say that that's step number one, and I think step number two, if the MDC really wants to start to improve relationships with member towns, is to also look at itself, look at cuts that it can make, because that's what all the member towns are doing in light of the governor's budget. And so thank you, Madam Mayor, appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Yes, okay, go ahead. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to, again, of course, approve since I signed it. But I actually think it's better if we, I think this is a beneficial move, not just for West Hartford, but for the other towns as well as the MDC. I mean, we've all seen the numbers that do show cumulatively that we pay a bigger share, but that's on average. And so so other towns, even though cumulatively if you added up all their payments, it might be less under the current system, that still isn't a fair system. So the person in one of the other towns, Weathersfield, they're a single elderly person living in a big home are subsidizing other people. I mean, they're also paying too much. Certainly, we care first about our own residents, and we certainly in our own town have people who can control the use and are paying too much for their water when you add together their water bill plus their property tax. So I think that there's a fairness issue that crosses town lines, and I'm hoping other towns don't look at this as sort of the big adding up all the costs, but really look at the distribution among their residents. And hopefully they'll agree with us that this ends up becoming a more fair system. They also would not suffer the same risk we've all had, which of the threat of one town defaulting. So again, they also other towns proportionally got that extra assessment as well, which I hope the other towns would like to avoid. And for the NBC itself, as we learned when we pointed out to them the danger they faced with Hartford's problems, that I think for the NBC itself, this would give them a more stable source of revenue with, again, hopefully the oversight that they'll get from charging residents the full amount of the cost. But again, I think it's beneficial to them as well. So hopefully, on the point of the resolution, it's easy for us to just say, hey, we want this, but the reason this is worth us spending the time to pass it is to encourage the other towns that their interest, and hopefully if we're all in it together, we'll be able to get this done. So I do thank the mayor for the effort and the drafting of this. But again, we need to not stop here and spread the word and try to, with our legislators and the whole delegation in the area, try to get this changed.
Thank you, Mr. Winograd. Ms. Kerrigan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a wonderful thing when common sense has a time. It was here that I learned that it cost me more to flush my toilet here than in a neighboring town. It blew my mind. It made no sense. So I'm just delighted that this is happening. But I am very cautious because the words here are, we are recommending to the MDC and we're calling upon the MDC. And my experience with the MDC is not so positive. So what I'm asking Mr. Van Winkle, can you help us and help those that are maybe listening? What happens now?
Sure. We will send this resolution to the 7 other towns that are members of the MDC, and tomorrow I am meeting with the MDC. I've already sent the draft to them so they could see where we were headed, and tomorrow I'm meeting with the MDC to push upon them our interest in seeing this change and see if I can get a commitment from them that they'll follow through. We need the legislature to make an adjustment to their charter to allow this to occur. That's what the lawyers have interpreted their charter to say, and so that's something that is before the legislature now, because the MDC is already asking the legislature for some amendments to their charter. So we need to add specific language. I believe the MDC has developed that language. I'd like to see that. They haven't shared that with us. If not, we will develop our own. So we'll start moving this tomorrow. When we look at our budget coming up, it may be problematic to get this all done so that the July 1st bill could be done, but certainly the January bill, January 1, if we could shift to a user fee, we would save $5 million, half that, and then $10 million next year.
Okay.
So we're moving along.
Whatever we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will be also talking with our legislators about this in our meetings with our legislatures. Yes, Mr. Barnes.
Thank you. I agree. A user fee makes sense, particularly for the residents of West Hartford. And I recognize Mr. Winograd's comments about certain people paying more and certain people paying less. And that's actually what happens with the towns as well. Certain towns pay more, some towns pay less. So I think while it makes sense for us. This is certainly going to be a challenge to convince the other towns to want to do that, because the people that are getting a better deal are going to be reluctant to change, and, you know, the ones that would benefit are going to support it. So, you know, it definitely makes sense for us. Just to give an example, based upon MDC numbers, what it would mean on an average basis for the folks in our town. The town manager mentioned that we pay about $10 million a year, at least in this upcoming budget. I don't see what year these average numbers are, but for example, the average household cost for sewer usage on an annual basis, assuming a certain CCF sewer rate assumption, is somewhere around $315. So essentially what would happen is $10 million would come out of our budget, and the residents would see on their water bill an additional sewer charge that would total on an annual basis about $314 or so. So that's how it would work, and that's what the numbers would look like. The town manager just mentioned the charter changes that the MDC is considering. If we're successful in changing to a user fee system, I would think that the proposed charter language changes would be moot, that the MDC wouldn't need those changes because we would be moving away from an ad valorem tax system. And my understanding is that the proposed changes are to address that. So I think that's one thing to keep in mind, that they wouldn't need to open the charter. They certainly wouldn't need additional borrowing authority in that situation. You know, one thing that we've heard from the MDC over time is that, you know, making this type of change would cause them administrative difficulties or cost them more money to be able to do this. My understanding is that, notwithstanding their concern, they're moving to a monthly billing system and away from the quarterly system. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but I think that that's the movement. And so they've already taken on that additional administrative charge of going monthly. So I don't think that that argument still stands. With respect to the reserve fee, I agree with my colleague, Mr. Williams, with respect to the reserve fund, and certainly would like to have that money back, particularly now with tough budget issues presenting us, and also with the governor signaling that you know, it's his intention, at least, to assist the city of Hartford with their issues. He likewise did not see fit to help us with our issues. So essentially, we'd like the money back to deal with our own budget issues. So I will be supporting this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Mr. Davidoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The last time that we were talking about the MDC, I sort of felt very impassioned about where I thought we need to be on this. And I thought that it would be a really good idea that if we had full council support for a common sense solution, we would be in a better position to achieve success. And I think this evening illustrates that quite well. Now, if you just step back as like the average person in town, and you think about your other bills that you pay. You've got your Eversource bill that comes every month. You may have a CNG bill that comes every month, or if you're on oil, your oil company will set you up every month with maybe a budget plan. You may get an internet, phone bill, cable, all bundled together from Comcast or Frontier. And you are in charge of your own destiny as the consumer. If you want to have a very wide variety of TV channels, you opt for a package that has that, and you pay a little bit more. If you want a certain speed internet, you pay maybe a little more. But you don't need to have it if you don't want it. You're in control of your household bills. And the same holds true for like your electricity bill. So if it's hot outside and you just want to run a fan, you can run a fan, or you can turn on the central air or your wall unit and pump in air conditioning. But you, as the homeowner, control that decision. Same thing with the bill. If it's with the gas bill, or the oil bill, if it's cold outside, you can either put on a sweater or grab a blanket or keep your heat down, or you can raise it up and you know that it's going to cost you a little bit more. Water in West Hartford and in the greater Hartford region hasn't been done that way. It's based on some arcane concept that, based on whatever the value of the homes in the community and the businesses and what is the net worth of the community. And if you look at it, we have all these other utilities that figured it out on how we build the end user, versus the MDC, which came up with something totally different that we would never, ever come up with today, as my colleague, Councilor Dodge, pointed out. So tonight we're asking for a shift to the consumer. And I think that's a reasonable place to put it. In our case, our consumer could be a residential homeowner, it could be a commercial business, but if it's commercial business, they can absorb the cost of the running water for food preparation into the cost of the item that they might charge you to purchase the food at their establishment, and things of that nature. So I think we're really on the right track here. The only thing that no one talked about this evening was we're looking at a 9.5 million cut if this was to be adopted from our budget. And I would hope that if this $9.5 million cut took place, we wouldn't rush to fill it with additional spending. That we would say, okay, we found a cut and that's where we would go. And that's, I think, where we're trying to be fiscally prudent. And I think that's what I'm getting out of it. And lastly, I think that this is really key, and I really can't understand it, is the concept of monthly billing. You get a bill every month for your phone, you get a bill every month for your electric, you get a bill every month for your gas, possibly from your oil. The MDC sees it fit to send it out 4 times a year. As the cost of water and the surcharges related to the 2 mandated court decisions, or settlements, I should say, are going to increase the cost to our users of water for the next 20 years. It is imperative that the MDC provide our residents, the users, and our businesses with monthly billing. It's ridiculous to open up a bill for several $100s or more when that bill could be more manageable for our people and more predictable. And I think that's key, because I think almost all responsible homeowners try to budget out their expenses, and you just don't want to have to say, well, wonder what that MDC bill is going to be this month, or this quarter, I should say. So I applaud our mayor for sticking to it. We're working with our manager and all those who've worked on this draft resolution, and whatever steps we need to get our legislators on board to support this would be great. So this evening, we're taking a great step in a bipartisan manner to do what I think is in the best interest of our community and for our region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. I just want to also, go ahead, Mr. Wright.
Sorry. I just want to make one follow-up comment. The MDC represents the 8-member towns. That's us, right? So it's our water district. So the reason I believe that the system set up the way it currently is because they thought it was in the best interest of all the towns and that it would be cheaper to run it this way back in 1929 or whenever, the charter and through the amendments were adopted, because they probably said to themselves it's cheaper to send out quarterly bills than monthly bills. And they said the collection rate's going to be higher if we use an ad valorem tax because the towns are going to pay, except for Hartford this year, who couldn't provide the assurance. So for the first time in 90 years, somebody raised their hand and said, we may not be able to do it. So this does introduce a different issue, because if you don't have the payment or the collection rate from the users, then that's going to be a burden that falls on the MDC to have to collect those funds and make their budget. And so we're assuming that, people are going to pay their bills, but it was set up this way originally for, I think, those 2 purposes, that it was cheaper and the higher collection rate. It just so happens we've come to a time or a point where it just doesn't make sense, certainly for us, we hope for the other towns, to continue to do business, this way. And so hopefully we see a change, one that creates a more equitable system, I think, for everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. So I do want to thank everybody for, my colleagues for sponsoring this resolution. Again, this is another first step. I feel like we keep making first steps on a new issue with MDC. And again, it has become critical to our residents to provide some property tax relief. And this is not something that we are going to replace or refill with something else. But we have, and we will explain as time goes on, a lot of the dynamic of our budget and the incredible pressure that our residents are under. And this is something that they can control. So, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 8, Mr. David.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move we adopt a resolution establishing the West Hartford Clean Energy Commission.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Van Winkle?
Sure, it may sound a little strange that we're establishing a Clean Energy Commission in 2017, but in fact, we established it many years ago, but it was established as an ad hoc committee. An ad hoc committee is supposed to take on a task and then complete it and move on. This is a committee of residents who have expertise in energy conservation and various aspects of the energy usage, and have provided us with tremendous help with knowledge that we don't necessarily have in giving us guidance in how to conserve energy. Now, we've been conserving energy since the 70s in OPEC, but it's only in this last 20 years that we began to look at clean energy and to find ways in which not only could we reduce the consumption of energy, but also to develop opportunities for clean energy. And today we're working with solar farms and have solar on our buildings, and the Clean Energy Task Force has helped us. So this is really putting into place something that we already have, but making it official that they're a permanent commission for the town of West Hartford.
Thank you, Mr. Van Winkle. And we have done this with a couple of other ad hoc task forces as well. So to be consistent, yes. And we had help from Corporation Counsel to make sure that this happens, and we can make sure that we have the contributions that this commission provides to us. So, all right. Any other comments, questions? All right. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 9, Mr. David.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move adoption of a resolution to appropriate a grant of $62,460 from the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation for enhanced dial-a-ride service to West Hartford.
Motion's made and seconded. Mr. Van Winkle.
This is a grant we apply for every year, and every year we have been able to receive this grant. And we don't build it into our budget until we know that we're going to receive it, so that tonight we have this grant offer of $62,460 to the town, and it's before you to appropriate those monies so that we can continue to provide the dial-a-ride service we have in Connecticut. There is some adjustments to numbers for the next fiscal year that we're looking at, and we'll have to see where the legislature goes on that before we make a decision about our dial-a-ride service and how we're going to fund it.
Thank you, Mr. Van Winkle. Any questions or comments? All right. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 10, reports from the town manager. But I just wanted to start by, this was a little bit of a unique meeting because we had a few residents write in to speak, and then they gave their time to other people, and they spoke. And obviously, it's a very impassioned group that feels very strongly about making sure that all of our residents, no matter where they come from, what their age, their country of origin, their religion, their sex, that they feel comfortable. And we do that, and we practice that. And I know that there's a lot of anxiety with some of the action from our changing, actually a lot of changes in our national leadership. So, and we've been talking to the police chief about what we do in practice in West Hartford and what other communities do. And we have talked about having our police chief do a review of best practices with other communities, because we're connected. There's no walls. We're very porous between all of our surrounding communities, and it would be, as we value and want to treat all of our residents, we don't want them going into another community to be treated differently. This is something that's we're all invested in. So we want to make sure that there's consistency, and our police chief has said that. So we're probably will be following up with our police chief. He's actually away right now and returning tomorrow, I think. And we are going to work with him to make sure that our practices are consistent with state guidelines, with federal guidelines, and making sure that we are doing everything that we need to do to protect our citizens' civil and constitutional rights, correct? Yes.
Yes, without question. This is a welcoming community. We know this is a welcoming community. It's not because you're a welcoming council. It's because of the community we are. It's the people in our community that reach out to help someone if they need help. And we see that in every aspect of our work in the community, and many aspects we never see because they're just done behind doors. So a lot of what we heard tonight are things we do. We do that. It's not a surprise that we aren't out surveilling people because of some aspect of their life, that who they are, that we need to watch them. We just don't do those things, and of course we don't do those things. We practice basically what is appropriate. There's a state law that's passed that describes how we should practice, but we've always done that even before they practice state law. If you get robbed, we don't want to know where you came from. We want you to help us find that person that robbed you. And the same is true of if you get stopped for speeding. Our goal is not to find out whether you're speeding, where you're from when you're speeding, is that you sped. And we put those laws into place without question. So, in our police department, we have a book of PRDs. And don't ask me what it stands for, I can't remember, but it's got to be 4 inches thick. And those are the policies of our police department about every aspect of what they do. I mean, obviously, your police department needs to act in a uniform way in every instance. And so it covers every possible thing a police officer, and we add to it all the time because new things come up. And this is perhaps something that we need to take a look at, what might be in a PRD and what we might be able to make clearer in that. But clearly, we're a welcome community, and clearly we're acting as our residents would like us to act. And you heard it tonight. If there is someone who is wanted for a felony, we're going to hold him. We're going to arrest him. If the federal government is after him for bank robbery or some other thing in our community, we're going to help them arrest a bad guy. But we're not going to hold a person who's been speeding to find out whether someone wants them. So based on what they look like. So our practice is pretty much what everyone would expect West Hartford's practice to be. So we're ready to take another look at that with the police chief.
Thank you. Now, it's your report, so. Questions? Okay,
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Bryan.
just that, maybe I had to turn just to follow up on that point. It was my understanding that 2 weeks ago, when we had the mayor's proclamation and the introductory comments and the reading of the proclamation, that there had already been communications with the police chief and the police force, and that at that time we confirmed that as a community, we comply with the law. Yes. And that's what we've done, and that's what we'll continue to do. And so when I hear you say, go back and take another look at that, I thought we had looked at it. Yes. We comply with the law, and that's the position that we've taken. Is that accurate?
Our police department will always comply with the law. Always comply with the law, whatever that law may be. And, they don't want to write a blanket statement because every instance of their activity is different. And there may be a reason that they need to hold somebody that, might be more than and we don't want to draw a line. No, God, we're never doing that. There may be So we've gone back and forth, the chief and the mayor and myself, we spend a lot of time kind of talking about how we operate. Our police officers know how we operate. They obey the law. And so I'm not concerned about that. It's something that the community keeps raising with us, and I think it's valuable for us to kind of scratch our head every time we get something like this, to step back and say, all right, are we doing everything they thought we were doing? So I believe we are. I have no doubt we are.
Right.
But I'm certainly also willing to take a moment with my chief and kind of walk through this. We've been doing it with some emails now for a few weeks, so we'll take another shot at it.
And just one follow-up question, that in between the last meeting and this meeting, the governor issued a letter to school superintendents around the state advising or suggesting to them how to handle communications from the federal government. I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to the police chief about that or with Corporation Counsel here in town, but does that change in any way, if you know, how we already currently operate here in town?
No, it doesn't. You know, if a police officer went to one of our schools and wanted a child out of that school, he cannot take a child out of that school just because he wants to take that child out of the school. If that child's causing a problem and the school calls up and we've had a fight and we need you to help us, obviously we go. But a West Hartford police officer just can't come and say, I want Johnny Jones here to come with me. It just doesn't happen. And it's so unlikely to happen for someone from the federal government to even do that. And if they did, we wouldn't let them take it. So there's a whole procedure of that. So somebody came and they were an authority, it'll go all the way to the superintendent and the police chief will all get involved to find out what is going on. But it is so unlikely. I mean, it's not, I can't even think of a case where how you could make that someone could come and go into our schools without parents' permission, principals' permission, superintendent's permission, police chief's permission. It's just not going to happen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Go ahead.
Okay. It's my report, you know. All right. A couple of good things. One, the rail line that runs through West Hartford. It runs from New Haven up to Springfield, and the state has been investing in that rail line, double tracking it, improving the tracks as it comes up through, and rebuilding some train stations. But they haven't initiated anything in West Hartford, and so they are now moving forward. They received funds from the State Bond Commission to begin to do the design and environmental permitting for a station in West Hartford. That station would be located on Flatbush Avenue, just opposite the busway station there, across the tracks, on the other side of the tracks. And so we had this conversation with them a couple of years ago, that was what they were going to do. They were waiting funding. They now have funding to begin that, and we'll be setting up meetings with them to discuss design. I would guess, though, that we're several years away from actually having a station. But first you design, then you seek the money to build the station, and one day we will have a station. And of course, the rail line itself is about to go from the 6 trains a day that run up and down this rail line to 17 trips a day. So the service will improve. You may not be able to get on in West Hartford, but you will still be able to get on at other stations, but in the future you'll be able to get on in West Hartford. So that was exciting. So I work in the government. I don't know if you know that, but I have an incredible team of people that do amazing things. And I want to say to you, your government is well managed. We have talented people that do a wonderful job for us. And back in 24 years ago, in the early 1990s, we decided to shift from buying insurance to being a self-insured business, if you will. And in those 24 years, we have had a program that was self-insured for most of our liability insurance, and it has worked really well for us. And it's been led by Sue Donatelli, who is our risk manager, and Sue is extraordinary. She is the best pain in the neck you ever met. No, she's risk managers. They always want, oh, don't do that. You got to have this. She makes sure we have the right coverage. She makes sure when we're doing something, we worry about risks. They worry about, do you hold on to the banister when you go up the stairs? So they're do a great job. And Sue has been an exemplary leader, and she has saved us lots of money renegotiating insurance contracts where we do buy them for those incidences where we do need them. But our consulting actuary that works with us on our self-insured program looked at the 24 years that we have had this program in place, and he has calculated that in 2016 dollars, we have saved $40,556,135 over those 24 years. To the credit of Sue Donatelli. This guy, your town manager, I don't do risk. But I have somebody who I don't need to know that stuff. She does such a great job for us. So that's good news. We have a whole bunch of budget meetings coming up. On March 7th, the superintendent will submit his budget to the Board of Education, and on March 8th, next week, on a Wednesday, you'll be here for a meeting, and we will submit to you the town's budget. This is going to be a scary budget because we are taking what the governor has proposed and putting it into our budget. We have made cuts to our budget, which we do every time. Both the superintendent and the town manager reach out to the departments. They bring us budget estimates, what they'd like to do, and we always adjust those requests down, and we will do that this time. But this budget is going to be if it were adopted as to what you will see proposed from the town manager, it'll be the largest tax increase in the history of the town. So we can't do that. And so we're giving you a whole list of options of how to reduce that budget, as well as working with our legislators to make sure that what is adopted at the state level can assist us in dealing with this. There's a few meetings that will be coming up. On March 9th, our West Hartford legislative delegation, not our town council, our legislative delegation, invite the public to a forum to discuss the impact of Governor Malloy's budget on West Hartford. And the forum is at Charter Oak School at 7 p.m. on March 9th. So I'm sure they're going to get a turnout because everybody's interested in this. We will also be holding a public forum. This council will be holding a public forum on March 13th at 6:30 in our auditorium. We haven't done this since maybe 2008 when we were hit by the recession. And again, this is to get public input. There'll be a short presentation, and then we're looking for to hear from the community about our budgets. The Board of Education is holding one. They'll be with us on the 13th, but they're holding their own Board of Education meeting at Charter Oak School on March 23rd. We adopt our budget. The school board adopts their budget on April 4th, and we adopt ours on April 25th. And so we're working hard to get. So I just mentioned that this is one of the largest, this will be the largest tax increase. If this budget were adopted, I know we're not going to adopt this budget because you're not going to let this happen this way, but our practice has always been to put the governor's budget into ours until the legislature gives us some direction. Regardless, the state of Connecticut has a serious problem. They're at $1.4 billion in deficit. They've got to figure out a way to cover that, and they have chosen to shift to us substantial costs, including $8 million contribution to the state's teacher pension fund, education costs, including that pension fund contribution, the cuts to the ECS grants, to the excess cost grants, to special ed amount to $14.5 million, an enormous cut. We had big cuts back in the early 90s when Weicker introduced an income tax and also cut the municipalities substantially, but it was not even, this is multiples of what we saw back then. So We had a discussion in committee about Yukon last week. Our discussion was we're probably going to see a significant budget increase regardless of what we do and where the legislature goes. They're probably going to have a significant impact on the town of West Hartford. And this may not be the time for the town of West Hartford to purchase the Yukon property. So after myself and our corporation counsel here met with the committee directed us to go back to Yukon to tell them that we are not able to close on this property in March, that we are unsure if we will ever be able to close on this property given our financial concerns right now. And we would maybe be able to talk to them after we see the governor's, whatever the budget is finally adopted by the state legislature, we'll know where our finances are better, but that will not be till summer. And third, we told them that we would be, I signed a letter this week to them to say that they should feel free to go seek another buyer. This is a wonderful opportunity for us to buy this property. I would love to be able to do that, but when we did our analysis of the cost of buying the property, which was $5 million, which was a good price for that property, that was a great price for us, but the buildings are in awful shape, in terrible shape. We looked at the demolition costs of $5 million, and now there's pollution in the ground around that, and it was almost $500,000 to clean up the soils on the site. And now I've got a grassy field, and to be able to do something with the grassy field meant it was millions more. And so, unfortunately, this is not the time when West Hartford can make that decision to buy that property. So we'll have to see where that's going. But that's perhaps the first of some cuts that we're going to be facing as we move forward with trying to adopt this budget in the next 2 months. So that's all I have. If you have questions, I'd be glad to answer them. I have one more thing. Airbnb, we heard about Airbnb tonight. We met with the Community Planning Committee that deals with our zoning issues. We had a discussion about Airbnb. The world is changing rapidly, you know, and they call it the sharing economy, where you can rent out a room in your house or your whole house. And so our ordinances say, well, you live in a single-family house. A single-family house means a single family lives there. You can't be renting spaces to that. You can't run a boarding house. You can't do all these things. So if you live in a single-family house, our zoning says you can't be an Airbnb. And it has an impact on zoning, and so the committee asked us to go look at, well, let's take a look at what other communities are doing, see how they're handling this. Is there a way in which we could be part of the 21st century here? Because this is coming no matter what. There are impacts on building codes, you know, so where is this person? Is this a place where someone should be sleeping? If you put them up in the attic, there may be building code issues. There's a question of taxation. Now you have a business in your home. What's my assessor going to do with that? You know, does he going to want to see your income and your expenses and adjust your assessment based on that? They pay sales tax to the state, a hotel tax to the state through Airbnb directly. So it's changing. We want to make sure whatever we do works with our neighborhoods, and we want to make sure that we vet that. It may be a few months before we're able to get to a conclusion on this, but it's another one of those things that's rapidly changing in America, and we've got to figure out how to deal with it. So we've been looking at a number of ordinances at community planning to kind of think about how we need to adjust some of our ordinances that are written in a different world, different economy. So there'll be more coming on that one too.
Thank you, Mr. Van Winkle. Mrs. Hall?
Thank you. I just wanted to point out in regard to the Yukon decision that, you know, I think that was definitely the right decision at this time. Also, just wanted to say we still have the power of zoning. So if someone thinks, oh, geez, now a big box store is going to come in or something like that. It's still zoned residential, and we do still control the zoning on that property, so not to fear.
I just would add to that, again, it's zoned single-family residential, so you can put a single-family house on that property. The cost that I sort of talked about of trying to get the property ready really restricts some kinds of development. And we looked at, well, all right, I'm going to subdivide the property and build single-family homes. Well, the lot costs get so high after you've torn down buildings, you've bought the land, you've cleaned the site, you've built the roads and the sewers and the wires. The lot costs get too high. We didn't even think we could see a single-family developer be interested with all those costs. And so we control zoning still. Someone would have to come to us and ask us for that. But we also have a second bite at the apple under state law. And we have what's called a first right of refusal, which is what we're talking about right now. They offer it to the town for a specific price and a specific agreement. If we turn that down, and that may be what we just did, they may come back to us and said, we're not willing to extend. But when they have a second buyer, we do have that opportunity to come back that time also.
Thank you. And then on a different note, back to police. A couple of weeks ago, and I think there was a lot going on that day, but there was a high-speed chase through town. And I think it originated in Hartford, went through multiple towns, but there were a lot of vehicles involved. And I just, if you could talk about our policy, there was an accident through an intersection, and this concerns me that we put our residents in danger over, some arrest that, may not end up with an incarceration. So it's, maybe you could talk about our policy.
Well, first of all, there was a stolen car in Hartford, and the Hartford police took off after him. It went to Simsbury. It ended up coming back into West Hartford. It was at Fern and Main Street that a car was going through a green light, and this car hit that and rolled it over. The person in the car was taken to the hospital. He wasn't substantially hurt, but he was taken to the hospital. I forget the number. There were something like 17 Hartford police cars chasing him. I don't want anybody to not stop for the police. Stop for the police in West Hartford. But, we're not going to endanger our public if you've stolen a car. I'm sorry, we're not going to chase you at 100 miles an hour. We're more likely to have some serious problem. It's not something I want the world to know, that we're not going to chase you, but it just doesn't make sense that we would chase you and get into an accident that might severely injure somebody for a stolen car. And so our policy is not to do what we saw the city of Hartford do, and cause damage to a car, injure a driver, and endanger lots of people that may have been near that. So.
And do we have the ability to convey that message to the city of Hartford that they're not free to engage in this chase through our streets?
That's a little tougher one. Public streets, police have certain powers to do certain things. When Hartford comes to West Hartford, we tend to stand back because the way they practice is not the way we practice. So we don't have the ability to say you can't come into our community. Because they have a right to be on a public street, and they have the police rights to try to apprehend someone. And their practices are obviously different, but we have expressed our concern about that to them.
So I'm just wondering do we need to make another call to the mayor of Hartford, or is this something you've already done? Because I think this merits a direct phone call.
Yes, I'll see that we do something along that line. The police know each other well, chiefs know each other well. We've had that conversation. We had another chase recently where we actually put out the stop bars and stopped the car for them after they were chasing him in West Hartford. And then the person who stolen the car was roughed up by the Hartford police. Our cameras were on, their cameras were not on. So we're not afraid to step up and say to the Hartford, hey, you know, this is what's going on, you need to change. So we'll
Thank
give
you.
it another run. Yep.
Thank you. We need each other, though. We do help each other and rely on each other, so it's a team effort. Okay, anybody else have comments or questions for the town manager? Okay. Number 11 is announcements. I will start. I don't know if anybody else has. Conard High School presents Cinderella the Musical, March 10th, 11th, 12th, 17th, and 18th. Hear ye, by royal decree of the king. Your presence is requested at Conard High School. Musical production, Roger and Hammerstein's most beloved songs, and expect the unexpected in this clever retelling of Cinderella. Performances are 7 o'clock on the 10th, 11th, 17th, and 18th, and 2 o'clock on Sunday, March 12th. Tickets are $18 for adults, $15 for children and students. Purchase tickets at www.conardhighschoolmusical.com. And also going on in the same weekend, the 59th annual production of Pops and Jazz featuring Hall High School's acclaimed jazz band, dancers, and singers opens March 10th, with additional performances on March 11th, 16th, 17th, and 18th. Doors open at 7 p.m. Performances begin at 7:30. A free benefit performance for senior citizens will be held on Wednesday, March 15th, from 2 to 3:30. Doors open at 1:30. This year, the program will revolve around a New Orleans theme, featuring scenes and music from the Crescent City. The production will also highlight the music and jazz icon Charles Mingus and 3-time Grammy Award nominee John DeVersa. America is My Home, Reflections of a Refugee and Two Immigrants, Saturday, March 11th, 2 to 3 p.m. West Hartford's second annual One Book, One Town initiative will spotlight 3 extraordinary people at this discussion at Faxon Library. And the book wasn't listed on here. It's Of Beetles and Angels, A Boy's Remarkable Journey from a Refugee Camp to Harvard, by Maui Askadam, and it's a very good book. Come here, Laka Sherpa, Mark Eves Regis, and Eta Rai, as they retell their powerful story as immigrants and refugee who came to America to begin a new life. Laka Sherpa has climbed Mount Everest 7 times, the most of any woman in the world. She will make her 8th climb on April 10th, 2017. She lives in West Hartford with her 2 daughters. Incredible, incredible person. Mark Eves Regis, photojournalist, poet, author of 5 books, founder, director of Camp Hispaniola, a summer camp. It didn't sound much better that way either. A summer camp in Dominican Republic and Haiti. He was forced to flee Haiti. I took French, sorry. He was forced to flee Haiti as a teenager and has made a new life in America. And Iti Rai lived as a refugee in her own country, Nepal, for 21 years. She is a 2015 graduate of Hartford Public High School, Law and Government Academy, and became a U.S. citizen in 2016. She hopes to become a lawyer to help her community. It will be a really inspirational discussion. I hope you can make it. 21st Annual Mandel JCC Jewish Film Festival, March 16th through 26th. A whirlwind of adventure awaits with films that highlight the best of humanity at this year's 21st Film Festival. Connecticut's largest annual celebration of Jewish culture, history, and people brings together beautiful and heartfelt stories of love and triumph, gripping documentaries, laugh-out-loud comedies, and soulful memories to this year's festival lineup. For tickets, call 860-231-6316 or go to the Mandel JCC in person. Raising Digital Natives with Character, Wednesday, March 1st, 7 p.m. It's a panel discussion for parents at 7 p.m. at Conard High School, and it is very, very timely. The second Mega Challah Bake on Sunday, March 5th, 2:30 at Emmanuel Synagogue. Challah is a braided bread traditionally eaten on Shabbat and Jewish holidays. The event is open to the public for women and girls in 2nd grade and older. For more information and to RSVP, visit www.megachallahbake.com. Good luck with that. Or call 860-232-1116. Challah is C-H-A-L-L-A-H. Okay. Tavern Night, A Taste of Ireland, Friday, March 17th. the Noah Webster House and West Hartford Historical Society. A dinner and celebration in honor of St. Patrick's Day. Guests will enjoy a delicious meal featuring homemade Guinness steak pie from Holla to Guinness. This is great. Steak pie from a secret family recipe, drinks, and live entertainment. Call Noah Webster House, 860-521-5342, or the cost is $40 per person for the general public, or $35 for museum members. Taste at Bishop's Corner, 2017, Wednesday, March 29th, 5:30 to 7:30. It will be held at, where is it? Doesn't say. All right, well, I guess, I don't know. Does anybody know where
I
it
think
is?
it's at individual restaurants. You can go in for the taste of Bishop's Corner.
Tickets
They
are
get discounts.
$5.
Yeah.
$5 for
Is it in the
museum members. I'm not sure. Well, we can get an answer for that, and it will be on the town website. West Hartford Cooking, Saturday, April 1st, 6:30 to 9 p.m. This is the foundation signature event, and there will be local chefs. Enjoy delicious food by the celebrity chefs. Admission is $50 per person. Call 860-561-8755. And save the date, the Mayor's Charity Ball, Saturday, May 13th. The event raises funds for the town that cares and Playhouse on Park. For more information, visit www.themayorscharity.ball.com. And I think that's it. Anybody else have announcements? No?
Could there be anything else going on?
I know, it's a busy March. We're going to be in budget meetings the whole time, so that really stinks.
One thing, the St. Patrick's Day Parade, Saturday, March 11th.
Yes.
Hopefully some or all of us will be
What time does it
marching.
start, 10:30?
I think it starts at, we have to line up by 10, I
Okay, so
think.
maybe 11?
So,
10:30?
don't know, but it is Saturday the
But we have
11th.
to
It's
be
in the
there.
morning, and get there early to get a good spot. Always a fun time.
Bring your own Guinness, I guess, right? I don't know.
I heard the mayor brings to get.
Number 12, reports from Corporation Council. Ms. Bonham, do you have anything?
There's no executive session. Happy to answer any questions, but otherwise, nothing.
Thank you, and I have to find my appointment sheet. All right, well, I'm looking. We're moving on to appointments. Ms. Hall, you have an appointment, yes.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Diana McPherson to the Housing Authority for the term ending December 31st, 2021.
Okay, and I'll make a motion to appoint Claire Doyle Dowd, appointed to the Housing Authority for a term ending 12/31/2021, and Emily Grainer Sexton, appointed to the Conservation and Environment Commission for a term ending 12/31/21. All those in, you need a second?
Second.
Okay, great. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. And number 20, Mr. Davidoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move adoption of the consent calendar.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 21, Mr. Davidoff.
I move we receive a notice of the town planner's intention to approve pursuant to section 17744C9E, a request on behalf of Bishop's Corner E&A LLC for an amendment to Special Development District Number 127, located at 345 North Main Street, also known as 2523 Albany Avenue. The request is for modifications to the existing wireless communication facilities.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Petition. So we were presented with a petition. So do we just make a motion to receive, or?
Petition as would be what is listed under.
Okay. Mhm.
Thank you. You can accept it as a communication.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to accept the communication we received earlier this evening during the communication section.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. I don't even know if we need that, but okay, we're covered. Okay, and number 3, we don't need an executive session, right? And I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, bye-bye.